On a chilly Halloween night, 1963, Indianapolis, hundreds of spectators full of excitement gathered at the Indiana State Fairgrounds Coliseum for the Holiday on Ice skating exhibition. Then, just after 11 p.m., a propane gas explosion from the concession area rips through the Coliseum and shoots a 40-foot orange flame through the south side seats, killing 54 people on site and leaving a scene of unimaginable horror. Among the spectators was a young girl named Janie White Hensley, who attended the Holiday on Ice show as a celebration of her 13th birthday.
I remember turning to my parents and thanking them for bringing it.
Little did she know that in just a few hours, the event, meant to mark a year of growth and happiness, would tragically become the last time she could ever see and thank her parents again.
There was a terrific explosion.
Immediately following the explosion for a few seconds, no one cried out, a survivor remembered. Then, the screams and cries. People gave all they had to reach the exits, fighting for their life. This tragedy would later be marked as the largest single disaster in Indiana history. "You walked into a nightmare," said Richard Roberts. "This is the worst thing I have seen since combat in World War II." With a total of 74 deaths and an additional 400 people horrifically injured, one big question remains: how could this have happened? Looking back, constructed in 1939, the Indiana State Fairgrounds Coliseum was a multi-purpose venue built to stimulate economic recovery and provide employment during the Great Depression. By 1963, it had become a central cultural hub in Indianapolis, hosting a variety of events including sports, concerts, and public gatherings. On the tragic evening of October 31, 1963, the Coliseum was scheduled to host the Holiday on Ice show, aligning with Halloween festivities. The event was anticipated to attract a large family audience with its impressive display of choreographed ice skating and elaborate costumes, offering an escape into a world of theatrical ice dance. However, the festive atmosphere was dramatically cut short. Below the seats filled with spectators, a critical oversight was about to lead to a catastrophic event. A propane tank stored improperly in a confined space beneath the audience began leaking gas. This unnoticed leak, accumulating over the course of the evening, set the stage for disaster. As the show approached its finale around 11 p.m., the accumulated gas found an ignition source. The resulting explosion was massive, instantly transforming the scene from one of celebration to horror. The blast dislodged concrete and metal, devastating a section of the seating area and causing widespread panic among the audience. A second explosion quickly followed, compounding the destruction and significantly hampering escape and rescue efforts. Just moments after the catastrophic blast, first responders rushed to the chaotic scene, where they were greeted by a panorama of devastation. Amidst the pandemonium, the Coliseum's orchestra continued to play a continuous, somber tune, providing a calming influence over the frantic crowd as they navigated through debris to evacuate. The ice rink itself, ironically suitable for the situation, was used as a temporary morgue due to the cold environment it provided. Firefighters, police officers, and medical personnel converged on the site with urgency and determination. The Indianapolis Fire Department deployed multiple units, their sirens cutting through the eerie calm that the orchestra attempted to maintain. These responders were faced with a daunting task. Flames threatened to engulf what remained of the structure, and scores of people were trapped under rubble. The scene resembled a war zone, filled with smoke and dust that clouded the air while the injured cried out for help. Moreover, volunteer rescuers emerged from the remaining audience. Ordinary citizens, untrained but driven by adrenaline and compassion, dug through the debris with their bare hands. They formed human chains to remove large pieces of concrete and twisted metal, creating paths to reach those still trapped. So how could this have happened? Were their safety measures overlooked? These questions loomed large as investigators sifted through the wreckage of the Indiana State Fairgrounds Coliseum following the devastating explosion. The immediate focus of the investigation was to determine the causes of the tragedy and to ensure such a disaster would never happen again. Investigators quickly discovered that propane tanks, improperly stored and lacking necessary safety valves, had leaked gas into a confined, unventilated space beneath the spectators. This oversight in safety protocols was the first critical failure point identified, pointing to a grave lapse in compliance with established safety standards. As the inquiry deepened, it revealed that this was not just a failure of procedure, but also of regular safety oversight. Interviews with facility management and maintenance staff uncovered a pattern of infrequent inspections and lax safety practices that failed to identify and mitigate the risk of storing hazardous materials. The investigation also prompted a broader scrutiny of regulatory enforcement, leading to a statewide tightening of regulations concerning the storage of hazardous materials and safety protocols for public venues. A grand jury convened to assess responsibility, issued a report criticizing both the Coliseum's management and the propane tank suppliers. Several individuals were indicted on charges ranging from involuntary manslaughter to misdemeanors. The aftermath of the explosion at the Indiana State Fairgrounds Coliseum left a lasting imprint.
Because of the worst I ever seen, and like I say, I never felt so helpless in my life.
Not only on the landscape of safety regulations, but profoundly affected the lives of those who survived the disaster. Among the narratives that emerged, the story of Janie White Hensley remains particularly poignant. Her experience encapsulates the shock and sorrow that many endured in the wake of the catastrophe. On her 13th birthday, Janie White Hensley finally got her long-awaited wish to attend the Holiday on Ice show with her parents. The excitement of the evening was a surprise gift from her parents, who had secretly saved up since payday. Moments before the tragic explosion, Janie turned to her parents with heartfelt gratitude. "This is the best gift ever, thank you." Reflecting on that night years later, Janie described it as the last perfect moment with her parents. The disaster that followed claimed their lives, leaving her to navigate her teenage years and adulthood without their guidance. "That night changed everything," Janie later said. "I lost my parents and my world all at once. It was too much to process, especially as a kid." Throughout her life, Janie grappled with the loss and trauma of that fateful evening. Her journey of healing was long and fraught with emotional scars that lingered. But Janie found strength in sharing her story.
People, they feel bad because they didn't get to say goodbye to somebody who's died. I think the fact that I got to thank my parents for taking me to something I really wanted to do was kind of, in a way, my goodbye for them. And so I've always been glad that I got that opportunity.
In the aftermath, the tragedy served as a stark reminder of the potential consequences of negligence, spurring a wave of policy reforms and a cultural shift toward heightened safety awareness. Public venues across the state underwent rigorous new safety checks, and emergency response protocols were strengthened. If you found this video interesting, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment if you want to support the channel.